Welcome to Debunk It. I'm Andrea Houston, and I'm here with Derrick, the Executive Director of Royal Rays Initiative Uganda, to learn more about the organization, the people behind the organization, doing life-saving work in one of the most dangerous countries on earth to be LGBTQ. Welcome, Derrick.
Oh, thank you so much, Ms. Andrea.
I want to start by learning a bit more about Royal Rays. Describe the organization for me and the work that you do.
So Royal Rays, it started like a small initiative that was actually put up by friends because we were a group of friends that we thought like there were gaps in the community that needed to be addressed, period around COVID period. And we were really tackling about individuals who were being attacked in Uganda because apparently life in Uganda has never been easy for the LGBT community. So we thought like we could come up with ideas that could be impactful to individuals, like creating safe spaces for members, giving them empowering initiatives that help them to build their self-reliance as an organization, and then also ensuring that they have support within the community, because like we never have support and we have to always get together. So this is what prompted us to create Royal Rays Initiative, an organization that is a platform for many young people who can use it to access so many things that they can't access out there with our different programs that we have come up with during our course of the period. And I'm really glad that as an organization, we've created impact for some few members, because I believe that every member that we help, even if it's one, it brings joy to me. So this is the background as an organization that we have, and we are really grateful that we have done something for members of the community. Like I can go back to the story, like when we started with members who fled to Canada because they thought they needed an environment that felt safe, like Chris Rodson Semakula, who's now the executive director of the African Center for Refugees in Canada. Friends like Justus Bukenya, who all thought that they can add something to the community. And that is something that I want to keep on going. It's not just Royal Rays, like an organization that is there, but something that is impactful. So that is the little background I can give you about it.
Yeah, it's such a really inspiring story. One of the founders of Royal Rays actually was a refugee herself, a trans woman who is now in Canada. Chris started an organization here in Toronto called the African Center for Refugees, but really Royal Rays is really a sister organization of that project. And it's really, really incredible with the work that you have been doing, as you just said, that real necessary, critical, and urgent frontline work, helping LGBTQ people who have been impacted by really an escalating situation that is extreme. Pretty much every facet of life has been impacted by increasingly harmful anti-LGBTQ legislation. The most recent of which passed in 2023, the Anti-Homosexuality Act. And of course, that was an extension of a law that was first proposed back in 2013, dubbed by the international community as the Kill the Gays Bill, which of course was pushed by American evangelicals, Canadian and British as well. But that has really created a really extreme climate from which organizations like Royal Rays is working, doing that frontline work, helping people who have been criminalized by the law. In some cases, bailing people out of jail, helping them with safety on a day-to-day basis, such as a safe house, food, emergency health care, HIV testing, support for sex worker rights. It's quite a long list, especially that the street level at-risk individuals who really depend on the kind of work that Royal Rays is doing. And that's not the only work that Royal Rays has been involved with. Last year, around this time, about a year ago, you set to work with your team building a podcast, which is this podcast, Debunk It, which was first launched in June. Talk a little bit about that. What has the podcast done, and what have you learned from doing this project?
Well, everyone kept on asking what is Debunk It because the name sounded unique. But I was focusing on something that like with the team that really resonates with people. Like we wanted to change the misconceptions when it comes to the LGBT community because we have now social media where everyone gets to say what they feel like, and we felt like we need to change people's narrative because what is said on social media can impact so much people's lives, and everyone gets to believe what is posted on internet. And we wanted to use that initiative to stop online hate speeches and stereotypes. We wanted to use that platform to say that, what, yes, we exist, but there are so many wrong things that are being said about us. And we want to see how we can change people's mindsets when it comes to what it means being LGBT, because there were so many cases where people thought like there's recruitment of people just because people are LGBT. When it came to organizations, like they thought they were giving out money for sex. And, we wanted to change the narrative that, what, we are organizations that exist to provide services for members who are underserved by the community, members who are attacked. And this has really worked out so well because I've got so many messages from people, like, thank you for the messages that you are putting out there. And even going back to our hosts, the guests that have appeared on the podcast, they have tackled so many issues. For example, like when I talk about Steve Kawiye, he came out and gave us a deep story of his attack. And it was an eye-opener for the world who didn't get to hear his story of how he was attacked and get to understand that he was someone who was working from home to work and people attacked him just for moving. He wasn't doing anything. He wasn't attacking anyone. And then he was attacked just for who he is as being a member of the LGBT community. So we wanted to show people that, what, the attacks are just malicious things that are done to people without any excuse. And then you saw how he was talking about how he was being treated by officials in the hospital, which was very traumatic for someone. Like every time I get to listen to it, I'm like, I'm imagining if this is happening to me. And these are things that people need to hear out because they are concealed and nobody gets to talk about them. So we wanted to use the platform to show people the realities of what it means to be LGBT. We wanted to change that perspective because so many people had been affected. Members were limited from accessing healthy services. Members were being arrested for no reason because they were just being LGBT. With the law also that came up in 2023, it changed so many things. One, there was a shift in funding, and now the organizations that were helping out so many people were affected because funding was limited. There were restrictions from government to how much money someone was receiving in an organization. And so many services are needed by so many people. So this podcast was a way to show people that, what, we need this because we deserve this. And although it hasn't been an easy thing because every time you get someone to talk about these issues, they are putting their life online to talk about these issues. I upload for every guest that appeared, from the members of Colored Voices, John Grace from Uganda Minority Shelter Consortium, Steve Kawiye, Sean, every member who used that platform to show members that you can get this. You are not alone in this fight. Like, it really inspired me so much. Like, not just me as the team leader, but also the team of Royal Rays. Like, it has helped us to put out our voices there. So that is the reason why, like, the podcast still exists, and we just don't want to use it maybe to talk about hate speeches and stereotypes, but also we need to talk about our daily lives as LGBT members, what it is like living in Uganda. I'm grateful for everyone and also the team in Canada that is supporting us every single time to see that this continues to tackle so many issues. Like, we appreciate the support so much.
It's certainly been an inspiration to both work on the podcast, but see it really develop from Canada. Absolutely, to be able to see that happen because it is quite terrifying. It has been quite terrifying to watch what has happened in Uganda, the slow decline of human rights, the terror and the fear that it is that the law and the climate has imposed on LGBTQ people and people at risk, people living on the margins. So many of them have, so many LGBTQ people in Uganda I've grown to love and call friends, like yourself over the years, like Chris. Like Frank and others doing this really important work. And so it's been really important for me, especially, to make sure that the podcast tries to sound the alarm as best as possible on the international stage. I was really heartened and empowered to listen to the words of Peter Tatchell, international activist who spoke on our podcast
Yeah.
in one of the earlier episodes, and to know that that international activists have their ear to the ground on this issue, as much as mainstream media around the world, especially in Canada, have not been doing a good enough job in covering the story and to, raise the awareness about this. So it's really wonderful to know that at least activists are still working hard to sound the alarm on this. I was really heartened by what you were saying, Derrick, about the impact that this podcast has had in not just raising the awareness about the issue and what is happening in Uganda, but actually giving people, LGBTQ people in Uganda, the kind of information they need to empower themselves and start to take care of one another and really save lives. And that's a really important thing that's the most important thing that any podcast could do, is help to save people's lives. I'd like to hear a little bit more about the climate in Uganda. What is the state of the situation right now? Is there a move? Is there anybody pushing to overturn the law, to change the legal situation? What's the climate right now?
So when it comes to the law, like, of course, organizations like HIRAF have been in court trying to appeal to the law to change the law, but then, of course, it hasn't been a success as of yet. But then, this has not deterred us from doing the advocacy work. Like, despite the fact it has not been yet appealed, because they applied for an appeal in the court, but unfortunately, it hasn't been successful for us. But then, I think like that has not deterred us from doing our advocacy work, especially with the so many organizations. Like, I would say UKPC that continues to give out relocation support to members. Of course, there are so many disadvantages when it comes to the law. Like, it has limited the work of organizations because we can't do advocacy work on the ground as much as we want to do that work. Like, for example, carrying out the outreaches the way we used to do them, the dialogues with different members, because it's a scary environment when it comes to collecting different, for example, men or boys, and then putting them in a single gathering. It's scary right now to do that because that information being shared out is really scary because you don't know who's going to come out, and then also getting people's data has become hard because everyone is scared of who may get in touch with their data. We live so much in secrecy because of the law. You can't share out so much information. You've seen that even with the limitations on what we can share on our social media handles as organizations, because you don't want this information to go out to the wrong people. Like, but it has to take a lot of guts as an organization or as you as a person to put out information because you feel like it's important and people need to listen to that. I would say the law has limited us so much, but it's not deterring us from doing our work. The climate gets a bit messed up, like you are getting so scared because everything that you do comes back to you as a person, but then it is not deterring us from doing our work. And that's one thing I'm really proud of for every organization that is continuing to do their advocacy work on the ground to show that, you know what, hey, we need to talk about this. We need to continue giving services, HIV services to members, PrEP, that is at, because there came a time when members couldn't access services because, you know what, some ministers say that we don't have to give services to LGBT members. You get it? And that scared so many people. It's a messed up situation. Like people are afraid so much. They are so much in the closet, but then we are going to continue doing the advocacy work so much to see that the services are still accorded to the people as much as we can. And it's one thing that I feel so bad that we've seen so many members seeking refuge in other countries because they feel they are not safe here because of the law. I've seen so many of my friends who have left the country, and now I'm here, but I'm like, every time I'm also like, should I join them or not? But my activism work keeps me here on the ground. And then I'm like, you know what? If we don't do this, then nobody's going to do it for us, because it's always starts with one person to ensure that we can get change. And if we all run away, like, I feel like there won't be a change for us as the LGBT community. So I'm here to see that we create that change despite the hardships that we are facing. I also want to call on the international community to see that there is more pressure because, Andrea, as you have just stated, like, you know, the Canadian government didn't know so much about this, but we need to see how they can support the LGBT community here, because we really need a lot of support to see that people get our services, like more funding coming in to, and also exerting pressure, because one thing that scares me, like, you know, we are coming in a period of elections as a country. And I feel like we are going to be a scapegoat because, you know, we feel like the situation is going to get hard, but that's why I say we still need the international support to see that we get to see that this environment becomes more friendly for all of us.
And you know, obviously, international support is critical right now. LGBTQ rights around the world are rolling back. We're seeing governments around the world, not just in Uganda, but around the world, careening to the right and electing anti-gay, racist, anti-immigration candidates or leaders. You know, Trump is just the most recent, but certainly not the only one. And so I worry about how all of these far right governments will shift the overall international arc towards human rights. Are we going to be seeing a real shift backwards, a rolling back of global human rights? And I really do worry about that, as I know you do as well. On the ground in Uganda, how are ordinary LGBTQ people staying safe? Obviously, you've been doing this work for a long time. You are connected. Your work and what you do is unbelievably courageous. But you do have a support system that a lot of LGBTQ people many LGBTQ people do not. Many of whom you're in touch with and you are taking care of in many ways. But how are they staying safe on an individual level?
It's really like scary most of the times. Well, how someone will tell you that they are staying safe, because I'll tell you, like, many members lost jobs, especially those few who are outed there, and they are depending on organizations to support them, maybe staying in shelters. Like, as there's that John Grace tackled that topic during one of our episodes of the podcast, many are staying in shelters, but then the problem is many lack jobs. It's a really hard situation for them, and they can't access healthy services because, you remember, as I talked to you, like, with the law in place, there's a bit of restriction, although we are trying to change that narrative. But of course, they are trying to see that they keep themselves safe. We talked about behavior change within themselves to see that we cope up with the environment so that we reduce on the security risk that they are facing as members. So I would say it's not easy because each one has their own story of how they are living their own lives to keep safe. But we tell every member, like, mind who you talk to, because even we've seen a drift of where people are using dating apps to attack LGBT members. And we caution members, you know what? You should mind who you are talking to. Be security cautious. Like, is there a friend who knows who you are meeting so that you are keeping safe. Also try to, the word is skipping my mind, but we've tried to see that we get a lot of support for relocation for the members. And I'm glad that we've referred a few members under UKPC to move to safer locations, especially those who have been outed out by different personalities. So we've seen UKPC giving out this support to them. And as an organization ourselves, we've also provided legal support and with support with legal organizations like Ubuntu and then HERAF to see that members who have been maybe arrested get legal justice that can protect them. And we have also tried to get support, nutritional support, but our support has mainly also gone to members who are living positively because, already with the law and members who are living positively face even a harsher situation because one, you're LGBT and then now you are living positively. So it's kind of double stigma for them, but we've tried to see that we support them as much as we can, nutritional support, adherence counseling, and then just that also peer support to see that, you are not alone. So that's how we've tried to engage with the situation and looking at health centers that can provide services to them without the fear of being discriminated. So we've tried to mitigate the situation. Of course, it hasn't been easy, but we've tried to mitigate that situation.
Wow. Incredible. Such important work, and I know that how difficult it must be for you to, feel that you have a duty to stay. You have a duty to continue this work. Because as you said, if you don't do it, who will? Which is incredible and really should be commended. And thank you for all the work that you do. How are you holding up personally? How are you doing with everything that's happened with the daily grind of this work in light of the obstacles and the barriers? Maybe talk a little bit, as much as you're comfortable, about the risks that you have faced personally and the support network that you have or don't have in Uganda to keep to keep it going, to support you and your work.
How I'm doing, it's hard to talk about it, but I always have a lot of anxiety and fear as a person. It's just that I don't get to talk about these issues so much, or I don't express it out there to people because the nature of the environment that we live in, and then of course, sometimes I freak out. Like most of the times, I'm like, oh my God, now if someone gets to hear about this and exposes me out, like maybe it lands within someone I wouldn't want to know the kind of stuff that I'm doing. It tortures me so much. I would say, but I don't get to share out this information to people because I want to do work because I've been through my own traumatic situation even before the law, and it affected me, and it always comes back in my mind you went through this situation, but there's someone who's going through this same situation and has no support system to help them out. So they need that support systems. Of course, it lays back because one, we are limited with funding, so you don't have rent. You are looking forward to it, and then being a leader of an organization, someone else is going to call you because in their assumption they think you are going to be able to support them, but you yourself as a person, you are struggling internally to feed yourself, to take care of yourself, but then this person expects you to still care for them. And I pick up most of the times the phone calls and then I'm like, hey, it's okay. We are going to figure it out. Let me try to connect you and this. Maybe I'll make a promise or something. But then within me as a person, it is killing me because I don't have funding for the organization because the organization is still grassroots. So we are limited by funding. We don't have salary. And we are trying to keep up our work so much to see that, we can serve as much as we can. But then this anxiety kills me so much. And then with the support system also, it is limited because, as I mentioned earlier, the support system that I had were a few of my close friends, but unfortunately they shifted to a different country. So I'm here alone, but I am staying because I want to create impact for people. And I hope I'm going to still create that impact of where I can create safe spaces for people so that they are not afraid to live their normal lives, despite the fact that they're LGBT. So it is very stressful. My mental health is always like way up there then, but I need to see how I calm myself down to keep on doing this work. And it has never been easy. And then like you also face that anxiety, like, what if I'm outed by someone and then like the police comes and raids me? It's like it's so broad, like when you think about it, given the nature of the environment, but you want to talk about these issues because you want to create change. You feel like you can be an inspiration to someone out there who's going through a similar situation. Like, I would want to see someone living better and maybe not have to go a situation that I went through. It's not that anyone is forcing me to do it, but then it's just the passion. And then this is who I am. I feel like I need to change someone's life. Even if I impact one person in a single day, it is okay for me because it means I've made someone's life better. And that is what keeps me going, despite the number of risks that are involved in the kind of work that we are doing when it comes as activists for the LGBT community.
Derrick, thank you so much for sitting down to talk to me about the work that you do and what drives you to keep doing this work in spite of so many obstacles. It's been a real honor to get to know you, work with you, and I'm so inspired that by you and by your work, and hopefully we'll together be able to inspire more people to join this very important cause and help save other people's lives on the ground. Um, Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you so much for all the work that you do.
Thank you, Ms. Andrea. And I hope like everyone who gets to listen to this podcast, like they can share out this information and maybe more funders can come out not to support just Royal Rays, but different LGBT organizations that are creating impact for so many people in Uganda. But I want to thank everyone who has supported us during this journey to see that this podcast continues going. Miss Hirali, Kate, Mariana, who's doing so much work for us. Like, I appreciate you. Hans, who we started this journey with, for everything that they have done. Like, it means so much to us. And I also want to thank the guests that have appeared on our different episodes and getting to share about different information that is needed out there for everyone. So I want to appreciate everyone.
Of course. How can people get in touch? What should people do? Where should people contact you if they want to make a donation or connect up with Royal Rays?
So anyone who wants to donate, you can visit our website, www.royalraysinitiative.org, and then donate anything that you can. And you can also reach out to us at our email on royalraysinitiative@gmail.com for any support that you can give. And just in case, even when you need more information about us and the work that we are doing to change lives, like, you can reach out to those different platforms or even contact us on our social media handles, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. We are always available to answer any question that anyone raises about us and any information that anyone would need from us.
Yep. It's an important cause and definitely needs support. As you heard, this is street level support for at-risk individuals, LGBTQ individuals mostly, but also sex workers, people with HIV, living with HIV, and a donation really helps to save lives. So. Once again, thank you so much. Keep tuning in to Debunk It. I am Andrea Houston. Thank you so much.